Welcome to the latest edition of Happy Monday from the Blue Room with me, Les, Dave and Rodger. Before we get into another win for Everton over the weekend, just get through some housekeeping. If you're listening on a podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast, if you can leave us a rating and a review, that would be smashing. And if you're watching on YouTube, if you could give us a like, leave a comment and subscribe, that would be great as well. Also, tell your mates, friends and family about us if you like what you're listening to. A couple of things going on this week. Obviously, we're recording this on Monday, and today is finally the test event at Everton Stadium. Me and Matt are going to be there later, so we'll bring you some reaction from the game and what the ground's like. I'll take some videos as well, so look out for that. That means that the byline is going to get pushed to Tuesday evening now, so that's when that one will be out. We've got the discount code for Laura Gate Photography is still going, TBR25, if you want 25% off any photos from Laura. Have a look at her website. They are really good. And Rog, me and you, I've got a podcast we're doing with Gav Buckland later on in the week. Do you want to just give a little overview of what that'll be about?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Gav's written 3 books, and I just finished the 3rd one, the end of the John Moores era. And personally, it's like one of my most intense periods of being a match going blue. And I loved it. It brought the whole thing to life and just makes you realise, the DNA of Everton Football Club and how it may or may not have ever changed. I know you've read the earlier 2, and I think we're going to do a couple of podcasts with Gav. First one we'll record Wednesday, and whenever we'll put that out, and then probably on the back of that invite some questions and a couple of other topics we can talk about. So I'm really excited to explore that and find out really, this Everton that we've talked about on here is a kind of, Ken Wright Mashiri Everton, and now obviously he's long gone, but the John Moores Everton and the culture behind that, I think is still very much prevalent today, and it's worth discussing. And Gav knows his onions, so yeah, can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's always great speaking to Gav. He just knows everything about Everton, and if he doesn't know it, it's not worth knowing. If you've not read his books, by the way, Money Can't Buy Us Love, Boys from the Blue Stuff, and The End, it's a brilliant trilogy. I'm halfway through the 2nd one, and I can fully recommend that. Anyway, the Toffees won again. What did we make of that against Crystal Palace? It was basically the scratch 11 that we've got. Crystal Palace are always obliging in that way. I know a couple of Palace fans, and they were like, it's the most typical Palace thing ever that they get beat by Everton. In a way, it was a scrappy performance, but a great 3 points, and to come through that game against the form side in Crystal Palace, a great away win, Rog.
Of course it was. I mean, and after very little recovery time, given what we went through physically and mentally in the derby, which we haven't got together since that. That was a funny old game.
Oh yeah, we haven't.
It was Warren and Dave on the post-match, and Warren said it was his favourite win of the season, or it was likely to be. I've got news for him. I think there's going to be a lot more, and there might be better ones than that. It was a brilliant performance. He scored early, good goal, lovely finish. Betto, 1-on-1, never in doubt. Conceded, slightly dodgy, was he offside? And then the tenacity to hang in the game and get another one. It had Charlie not banged that in, do you think we'd have got the penalty?
I don't know. It was nailed on for me.
Taken the penalty. There's a question.
The interesting thing was that when we scored there, I thought they're going to bring this back and we'll have the penalty instead. Just the most Everton mentality thinking of that, really. I was like screaming when it happened. I was like, that's a nailed on penalty. And then 2 seconds later, he slotted it in. I was thinking, yeah, the ref's going to have blown up there and we'll get the penalty and then someone will blast it over the bar. And we'll be sitting there on Saturday night absolutely devastated that we got a penalty.
Do you know what? I'm not sure I'd have trusted the VAR, because I think just going on to that offside decision for Palace, I mean, how they took 3.5 minutes or whatever it was to come to the decision that he wasn't offside, when you could see straight away that he wasn't offside.
No, I mean, it's gone back to how it was, really. I think it was starting to get gradually starting to get a tiny bit more efficient, particularly in terms of time wasted. I'm saying there, in terms of how it does, it's still a joke, and it has been since day one, hasn't it? But you think of the amount of time they take to do that. It's back to the discussions of, do you know what? It kills football. It means that you're sitting there. There's nothing conventional about being a fan anymore when you want to go absolutely ballistic. And the Liverpool game, it was the opposite of that, of course, because when Everton scored, like that's one of the most, I don't know, atmosphere-wise, Clyde Street, that was one of the most amazing experience that I've looked at and watched. When you see the movements that of fans in there, I mean, I've never seen it go that crazy before. You guys will, not to put too much of a finer point on it, you guys will know more than me the amount of times that a goal's been scored at the Clyde Street and what the reaction's been like. But certainly in modern day football, when it's seating, that was ballistic. And the thing about that was too, they were almost desperate to give that to Liverpool. They were almost desperate for Everton not to have scored that equaliser. And that's, do you know what? I'm saying that taking off my blue cap here, even though it'll sound like the complete opposite when people who aren't Blues listening to this, because when he scores that goal, they immediately go to offside. They immediately go to, was Konate fouled? That offside decision that they go to first of all, that they're attempting to look at, was an absolute disgrace, because he's comfortably onside, and Tsimikas is playing him on, Konate's playing him on, big Virgil with jizz on his head. So he's playing him onside. They're in a line, and Tarkovsky's standing about a yard short, and maybe I'm exaggerating there, but there's no chance. You don't need to look at that again. And then for them to be moaning that Konate was fouled by Betto, I thought was the most desperate thing I've ever seen in terms of a decision that they've been pleading to get. But overall, those experiences with VAR, I mean,
it just gave us a second chance to go crazy. I mean, it was brilliant.
Yeah. It's the thing. That's a good point. But the thing that gets me is, it's like, does it not feel to you guys like, are people trying to? It's a non-Everton thing that you see referees and these sorts of authorities that are in and around the game. You're thinking, do you know what? Everton have to go that little bit further to get a decision that's actually fair.
I don't think it's necessarily that Everton have got to go further. I think big teams at the top of the table, let's say, get more leniency. So you look at Liverpool's penalty yesterday at Wolves, that was ridiculous. He didn't touch him.
Yeah.
But they get those decisions, whereas we probably don't, which is why the handball, they might have said,
they didn't get the second one, and they didn't get the second penalty, and Salah also had a goal disallowed offside in the second half. That was mad. I mean, he clearly was offside, but the fact that they had the gall to disallow a goal from Salah. Wow.
Am I right in saying that they didn't even book Jota? The most blatant dive, he didn't book Jota for that dive.
That's right, they didn't. But I think we need to give our friends across the park a little bit of credit, because they're, as usual, at the vanguard of bringing in new rules. Because there's a new rule that not everyone knows about, that you're allowed to substitute a player who could be about to get a second yellow before he gets that second yellow. And Liverpool have volunteered to be the trial club to do that, because they did it with, Trent, and they've done it. They did it at the derby. Because there should have been at least two second yellows for both fullbacks.
And it's obvious as well, Rodger, just to interrupt that. Yeah, it's pretty obvious with Conor Bradley.
Correct.
There were 3 occasions when he could have gone, and it's almost like the narrative they follow is, do you know what? If he was probably an older player, he's a more established player, but he's a kid. We'll let him off. I get that feeling towards those sorts of things.
They did the same with Konate yesterday. Konate should have gone before half time.
They did the same with him last season.
Yeah, and they brought Kwanzaa on, and because they did that the other way around in the derby, didn't they? Yeah, so that's a nice. They are trialing this new rule too, because we want football to be 11 against 11, don't we? Oh, and incidentally, sorry, you're talking to a man who had a bet on a red card in the derby, and it doesn't get fucking paid out because it was after the final whistle. There were 2 of them. I mean, for God's sake.
Nightmare. I think aside from that, though, my main issue with VAR is that they basically look to how they can disallow a goal, and that's not the point. The point should be how you can allow goals, basically. Because offside, I don't think it's ever been a written rule, but it always has been, or it was. Benefit goes to the striker because you want to see goals, essentially. So if it's a marginal call, give it to the striker, because you want to see goals. Now it's like, it's just, if it's a marginal call, we'll give it to the defender, we'll rule out the goal. And if it's not a marginal call, we'll try and find a way to make it a marginal call so we can disallow the goal. And it's just really, really frustrating. And, it's not just an Everton thing, because you saw it happen with Palace. They looked desperate to rule that goal out for some reason. And I really don't know why. I think what you say the first one, by the way, I thought that was a weird VAR call, where the first goal they scored just before Betto scored, where it swung out of play. Now, the linesman's got the best view of anyone there. And why was that even going to VAR? The linesman gave it.
Well, I mean, actually, if you looked at it on VAR, from the camera angle that I saw, which is kind of from where the Everton away fans are, in that stupid corner where you can't see anything because the roof's down, it actually didn't look like it had gone out of play from there.
No, it didn't. It didn't.
No.
You can't draw a line when the ball's like 90 foot up in the air, and you can't. I thought clearly, if the lino says it's gone out, it's gone out. It has to.
Do you know, it has to be the first time I've seen anything like that, because when it happens, I think everybody's sort of looking at each other, like even the refs, I think, are looking at each other thinking, does this go to VAR? How do we go about this one? It's like, oh yeah, we need to go with what the linesman said. And when I
think the ref might have blown, because Jordan doesn't even go for the header, does he? It's not that powerful a header. He puts it in the top corner, and Jordan doesn't really move. Maybe the ref had kind of blown. I don't know. Maybe he saw the flag up.
Such a bizarre thing, though, because when it happened, I thought, no, fucking hell, what a way to concede a goal there. I just this is probably, I am tempting so much fate here, but set pieces on either end of the pitch, probably the best side in the league there. And when you play, I mean, Mateta there for Palace there, he's an absolute nuisance. I'd have him. I think he's a really good striker. Our man Betto is probably better than him now, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? With the similar sort of similar traits that they have as forwards, but that at that point, I mean, and look, we could probably cut, if you didn't know what date it was here, you could say we were talking about this in 2019 with VAR and things like that, couldn't you? But fortunately, getting the 4 points we have in the last two games, it's a crap thing to say, and it takes it away from how good we've performed in both games. That we're sitting here on Monday morning thinking, do you know what? It's really, really fortunate that the decision was actually given the way it should have been towards Everton, because as we know, that's never always been the case.
No.
Yeah, and just going back to the good parts of the game then, let's start concentrating on Everton for the rest of the show now. It was, as I said, it was a scrappy performance, but it had to be, because we were really down to the sort of the bare 11. I wouldn't say there's a lot of pressure on that team to perform there against Palace, but it was a high pressure game in the sense that we need to keep this momentum going. We've pulled away now. I think we're 13 points off 18th and 13 points off 5th. So if we're in a relegation scrap, we're also in the Champions League fight. So we're banging sort of where we want to be really now for this season, where we sort of thought just get through this season. We've kind of hit that point. I think, Dave, you've even conceded now that you think we're safe.
Yeah, I've been getting ripped apart, and I thought, you know what, I'm sticking with my guns here. I think we're still in a relegation fight, but what happened with Ipswich in the end? Villa got that equaliser. Our mates did us a bit of a favour. I was watching that yesterday, thinking, we can't lose here. We simply can't lose. Liverpool win. Yeah, that's probably we won't. Wolves can't touch us. If Wolves win, title race is back on, and we're still probably going to be safe anyway. So I was looking at this game sort of feet up, thinking, not sure what I really want to happen here, but it was definitely, I wanted the Reds to get beat, because I've honestly started having a lot more confidence in us, and dare to say, I've started to edge away from the typical mentality I've had with Everton since I've been born, basically, thinking that there's something that's going to cock up here. Much the same way we've just spoken about VAR. I've been watching these games and our matches, thinking things are going to peak David Moyes' side, if you like, when we used to get, like, you become a juggernaut with momentum. That was what was key to him as our manager. I always remember one of the first couple of seasons, we won 6 games, 1-0 on the trot. And when that happened, I was like, Everton are just a block wall that you can't get through defensively. And now you look at Moyes and people who've counted him out of what he is as a manager, call him a dinosaur and all that sort of thing. Show the real sort of pragmatism in how we've played, and I think he's been brilliant so far. And that's been the most uplifting, but also I'd say surprising. Just in hindsight, surprising, because when we got him back, he had this the tendency that he had so many people who didn't want him to come back, more so than people who wanted him to come. I put a bet on, and I wouldn't say people are eating humble pie here, but it's just been massively refreshing. I've taken more to David Moyes than I ever did at his most successful time at the club, when we got to the FA Cup final, when we were playing really well in the last couple of seasons. We had him as manager. There's something about him now that is a bit of an aura about him. When he comes onto the pitch, runs over to the fans, and he's giving it loads himself. He's a different man. I go far saying it's like a different person than he was when we first had him.
And he's made us into a pretty decent counter-attacking side. I think you could see that against Palace there. You know, we look quick on the attack. I think Alcaraz, first start, he gets a goal and an assist. I think that ball through to Betto, Rodger, for his finish. I mean, and that finish from Betto as well was brilliant. It just looks a lot better going forward, doesn't it? He's really sort of unlocked that attack.
I think he's raised the bar, and he's raised the bar so dramatically from how low it was. You know, how desperate the football was under Dyche for so long, and occasional glimpses of light and occasional victories, and then 17 games without a win or whatever the hell it was. It's just night and day, and it's so refreshing because you've got confidence in your team. Any anxiety has been removed, and Dave and I can have a pretty good fight as to who's the most negative. But I'm wondering, when are we next going to lose a game of football? Because I fancy us against anyone. Genuinely. We gave the Red Shite a game, absolutely no question about that. And I don't think there's any other team in the Premier League that we would, these stupid expected losses. No, I think we've got 13 games to go. The sky's the limit. And playing the way we're playing with a depleted squad. But now what you've got, as these players do come back, I'm not sure how far McNeil is from coming back, or DCL, but and Dye, but there's competition for places at the top end of the pitch. I mean, Jesus Christ, we've got a back five. And we've got some subs coming on. Shout out to Ashley Young, who was starting games under Dyche, but both of those goals, the equaliser against Liverpool and the goal, the winner against Palace, he's integral in that, keeping the ball in play, having a shot, that was well saved, comes out to Alcaraz goal, and he pings that long diagonal cross, which ends up with Mikolenko doing the up and under for the Tarkovsky goal. So we've got options, and we're tactically astute, and the players are relaxed, the players are playing well. Tarkovsky, clearly, take it all back for what he did in the derby, but a couple of brain farts again yesterday early on. But people are covering for him. O'Brien looks a real player. He's got pace, and I think that's good for Branthwaite. He can now play with a little bit of freedom because it's not all on him. And that midfield looks great. There's extra energy in it with Alcaraz and Betto. The man puts the ball in the net. It's just indisputable. Give him the ball in front of him. It's not in doubt. So long may it continue.
Yeah, I think there's been a big mentality shift over the last few games, hasn't there? As the momentum built, he sort of, you can see there seems to be a mentality shift in the players, because it feels like he's talking things up, whereas Dyche from the start of the season was talking things down, trying to dampen any expectations anyone had. Without going over the top, Moyes is he's brought a bit of confidence into everyone. And even us as fans, I think, like you say, we're not catastrophizing as much as we used to. And I think Rodger wants to pick up on this. He's taking pressure off everyone around the club.
Yeah, he hasn't, and so much of that is positive, because off the players, they look liberated and they're enjoying their game. And why shouldn't they? Because when they're confident and they're relaxed, they're going to play at their best rather than when they're under pressure. Fans' attitude now, I'm not anxious watching Everton anymore. If we lose, we go, well, okay, maybe it was a bit unlucky, but it was next time. I don't think we're heading into a death spiral, which always seemed to be around the corner if we weren't in the middle of it with the previous manager. But he's taken the pressure off everyone at the club. He's taken the pressure off the owners, which I think is important, because they're clearly doing shit in the background to get stuff together. We still don't have a chief executive. They've still got decisions to make around director of football, scouting, and these sorts of things. But what I do think is interesting is that, people have a go at the Everton fans for being a bit, difficult and a bit negative. But, the Freaking Group took us over, when was it? Before Christmas? I can't actually remember. Was it December? Yeah, mid-December. And there were a few statements on that day. We haven't heard a dicky bird since then. And we're all going, oh, yes, that's just their way. That's how they operate. That's how they've done it at Roma. And we're all going, oh, this is lovely. I mean, for years, we've been screaming, Bashiri doesn't say anything. It's disgraceful. We need communication. And now we're all really cool about it. And we've even got Thelwell stepping into the breach, telling us what a magnificent job he's done. So this is all because of one person. This is all because of David Moyes, that the atmosphere is lighter and more positive around the club. He deserves all the credit for this. And I just think that I wonder how long it will be before, as fans, we'd like to hear something from our owners and the people that they're going to put in at chief executive level. When is the decision being made about director of football? I'm less concerned about that because, David Moyes can take all footballing decisions as far as I'm concerned. Don't need anybody else. He'll if he's happy with the decision that's made, whether Thelwell stays or goes, if Moyes is happy with it, I'm happy with it. He can handle that. But the rest of the stuff, the rest of what we're going to do in the window and the plans for the new stadium and naming rights and all of these commercial things that we're interested in, you're going there tonight, Les. We haven't heard a dicky bird, but we're dead cool about it because the footy's great. And that's the point. Football performances on the pitch, that's all that matters. That is all that matters. If you're playing well, nobody cares about anything else. We're playing well and we're winning games. So, fabulous.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it, David? It's like we can get bogged down and all the stuff around it. Yeah. When you're playing crap and when you're losing games, everything else seems a lot worse. And you kind of get bogged down in everything around the club. But, on this run, it might not last. Hopefully it will. It might not, but we just enjoy it while we can. And it does take the pressure off everything, doesn't it? Suddenly we're not thinking about the owners. We're not worrying about the new ground. It's like everything's great, really.
Yeah. It will end, which, there's ticking the box there that people think I'm still that negative. It will happen. It's inevitable. Every side loses a game eventually, don't they? The fact that we're here talking about that you can probably win every game that we're playing it's chalk and cheese, it's day and night, whatever which way you want to put it. I thought, just going back on the point Rodger was making there about Thelwell, it's probably the first one of the best bits of PR that the club has done for a long time in relation to somebody who backs him and backs themselves, because he must have been delighted to come out and do that piece where he's talking about in general how things are going to go, and we've got a few quid to spend. Basically, I mean, just between the lines, he's saying that, isn't he? That this summer we're going to be able to do some things financially, and I think that goes into the way things have built up, the momentum thing that is spoken about. Somebody at the club has turned and looked and said, we can probably use this to our advantage in various different ways, and they've gone and done it. And that's something that's been so inefficient over the years. We've actually done shows on it, haven't we, on how poor Everton have been in regards to being a modern day club with what they say out to the media. We've seen people absolutely raving that he come out and said what he did. So much so that people were saying he was one of the best directors of football we ever had. Just simply because he decided to go in front of a camera and say a few things. So, if Everton are starting to get those things right, then it starts to wonder what's going on here, and we're going to wake up soon. But you think with the momentum Moyes has come in and done, I feel as if I'd like to know, we're not going to obviously, but like to know what is going on behind him and what he's starting to put in place. Of course, outwardly he's going to come out and say Everton aren't mathematically safe in the league. Yeah, we're not going to discuss anything beyond May, and that's when it'll be done. But you go and get that weekend that we did, the momentum that we've got. I refuse to believe that he'd be naive enough to think we're not safe. And he surely, yes, it's due diligence, isn't it? Saying that, do you know what? We've still got to win. We've still got to keep things going and all that. As we want him to do, of course. We want Everton to finish high as possible. What are we, 14th now? Above Man United, I think, is astonishing, by the way. I think that is absolutely hilarious that Everton are above Manchester United, who've apparently got one of the best young managers in world football. And they seem to have...
I've got a scenario for you. Remember I said the last time Moyes was in the Everton dugout for a Man United game, he got the sack. He was in the Man United dugout at Goodison. He got sacked after that game.
Yeah.
They're next up at Goodison Saturday, 12:30. 3 or 4-0 to the Blue Boys. Hammer him out.
We've seen a few managers in the past, haven't we, at Goodison?
Yeah.
We've seen quite a few, so
Carlo Ancelotti. I'll give you Carlo Ancelotti. Sacked in the tunnel.
Crazy.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, I think when you're looking at various facets of the club now and thinking, well, do you know what? Things aren't as bad as what we thought. It's amazing what a win can do, isn't it? It's amazing what the feeling
wins.
we've got.
4 wins and a draw, not just one win.
Yeah, exactly. You think you go back and think, well, do you know what? Say if that Tarkowski equaliser wasn't given, I guarantee. Well, I think I guarantee Everton would not go and get that 3 points away at Crystal Palace. That to me doesn't. It can't be underestimated how well we did against Crystal Palace there. Because I was adamant Everton certainly aren't winning, but I don't think Everton are getting near not losing, shall we say. I felt the team we had to line up, you look at the bench there, where they seem to have picked up one of the ball boys and thrown him in because with that depleted in terms of the number of players we've got. They went and did the job on Palace, and even there's one player that hasn't been mentioned as far as I can see, Jack Harrison. I doff my cap to him. I thought he was really good. He effectively was heavily involved in us getting the winner as well, wasn't he? Putting that cross in for O'Brien to try and nod back where it was going to be handball. He and look, we can always say, I think the thing that you'd always say where you think he's not that poor for us is that he puts a graft in. He did that, but there was a glimmer of, well, do you know what? He's looking like an effective winger. At times, the crosses he was putting in a lot better. Again, I don't think that's any coincidence really with Moyes being about as well. And it's the play we've got with Betto now, which I think is really interesting. That's what I love us to talk about, is with him. And again, Thirlwell will come on, and maybe that's why he did when he's seen him bag a few goals. Maybe he's thinking, you know what, while the sun shines, I'm going to go on and think everybody's going to look at me and think he's a fucking genius. He's going to sign this player for 30 million quid. It's just Sean Dyche. Let's go with the narrative that Sean Dyche has fucked everyone up, and I'm a genius as it's been. Which is really interesting. And you think back to the mentality we've had with various directors of football, but he seems like the efficiency that you need. And typically in regards to how Everton play, things have fallen into line with Moyes and him. Moyes has been out and again, sort of reading between the lines, Moyes hasn't come out and said that he's a quality striker. He's not come out and said, oh, do you know what? He's the one we have to rely upon in terms of scoring goals. He speaks quite openly too, Betto. And I really like that about him too. He's the type of player that you really want to get behind. Someone, it means so much to him that you see like that. And because, things haven't gone against him for, how long have we had him now? 18 months, is it?
Yeah, it's about that.
18 months. You think how long it's taken for him, and that's a different show we could probably do about how he's been able to sort of stick with things. And it was only a few weeks ago that it looked like he was going to go back to Italy, and people are seeing him at airports, and he might be rocking up like our mate Steve Wallace did when he took a briefcase over to Milan, and nothing actually went on and happened. But I feel as if Everton finally playing to his strengths. I maintain the fact that he's about 9 foot tall in the air, but he's no good at heading it. I don't think that's his game. I think it's taken us a while to find out what it actually is. But I mentioned in the post-match there, Everton have got 3 giants who are really quick. And I think that's deceptive to anybody who's looking at Everton ahead of a game. So you think that Amarin, when United are coming to Goodison there, one of the things that's not obvious is that you've got 3 big lads on our side who are rapid. And I think Betto, when he's sprinting, he takes 1 step for everyone else's 2. He looks deceptively not quick, but he's really quick. I remember when we first had the chat to an Italian journalist when we first got him in, and he was saying he'll look quite gangly. He won't look like he's a footballer at times. And I've said it a few times. It reminds me a lot of Paolo Wancho. Do you remember him?
Yeah, you did last week. I think that's exactly it. It's
so many times I look at him. Yeah, I look at him and think, do you know what? How on earth have you ended up signing him? When he was at Derby, you think some of the goals he scored, though, he looked ridiculous. He seems to me one of those players, Betto, will probably be quite on the edge of a game. Nothing's really happening for him, but Now we've seen the way in which he can finish. That goal he scored against Bournemouth there was a slight little thing. It's really clever, that goal. If you look back, you're thinking, oh, he's got lucky because the defender's sliding in and the keeper are just about to combine and stop the ball. There's a time he dinks that over him a little bit.
Yeah.
That goal, he scored that goal, I think, on 3 occasions now. That almost open your body up, slot it beneath the goalkeeper. And look, it's not like we're a side still. Let's create mounds of chances, are we? We're having shots on goal and stuff like that, and Dai probably our best outlet in terms of scoring goals. It's not been, Everton are having shot after shot after shot. Yet the fact is that Everton, I think we've got now 13 goals or 12 goals since Moyes, 2 goals per game average since Moyes has come back. Yet we're doing that without creating 20, 30 chances a game. There's a real, I don't know what the records are. I don't know Mike Green will be talking about that sort of thing with XGs and all that sort of thing, which it's not for me, admittedly. But you look at how Everton look when they're getting the odd chance or two, and like you said, counter-attacking as well. This is a completely different side, and I think you are out in some of these clubs. I think Liverpool slot's probably one where Everton are a really good outfit. Everton are a good team, the way in which they play. But there's so many managers, and let's hope Amarim's one of them, who thinks that, these aren't that good here. You can put a different approach towards games. They have to think twice about us now. I commented a few times this season too. If you were a manager of a different club and you had Everton coming up, and you had to get the lads into the schoolroom and say, look, what are we doing here? We've got to do that, and everybody's creating a plan, like a war room or whatever. It'd take them about 20 minutes to know what they were coming up against with Everton. Right now, you've got to think of in different parts of that team that Everton got. You've got to think of how you prevent that from happening. The way in which they play, the way in which I feel as if it's effective football as well. It's not just route one. It's not Moyes like. Everton are not what David Moyes was like when he was with us, apart from maybe that, like those last couple of years. It's so the impact that he's had in how we play is been, I would never have expected that to happen, regardless if we got in. We didn't get Ancelotti back. I didn't think Everton would have this seismic shift to what we've seen in the space of 8 weeks. Are we less than 8 weeks?
Yeah, I've got a good Mick Greenall stat for you there while we're there. Yesterday was only our 4th Premier League victory without Abdoulaye Doucouré since he's been at the football club, and the first since February 2022, which is a mad stat. Yeah. But right, just on Betto, I think in the last couple, obviously he is clinical and he can't half finish. It's very reminiscent of 6 months of Yelovich, isn't it? Where it's like he gets a chance, he's got to slot it. But I think in the last 2 games, I think we've seen a bit better all-round play from him. Like he really occupied Liverpool's back 2 on Wednesday night, and he did the same against Palace. So it feels like he's constantly working on his game, and he looks like, he's number 1 striker now, isn't he, for us?
Yeah, he has to be. I was just thinking when Dave was talking there about Palace with Mateta and Nottingham Forest with Chris Wood. And I think in those 2 cases, the respective managers have said, right, you're my go-to guy, and this is how we're going to play, and we're going to get the best out of you. And Moyes has come in, very little activity in the transfer window other than Alcaraz. That was all we could do. He's left with Betto because he's injured. And to turn him from a sort of also-ran, almost comedy character into this reliable goal scorer is phenomenal. And personally, I never really rated Chris Wood, and he's got, 19. He's been in my fantasy team all season, of course. But, he's got about 19 goals for Palace. And Mateta, I thought he was pretty Joe average, and he's scoring goals because the manager's getting the best out of them. And this relationship between managers and goal scorers, I think, is absolutely critical. The other thing about Betto that I find extraordinary is whilst he is very tall, 6'4", whatever he is, he runs like me, about 5'6", because he's so low to the ground, because he takes such huge, almost lion or tiger-like strides, huge strides.
Like the old moon, isn't he, at times?
Yeah, and you can't knock him off the ball. He's very, very awkward. But actually, what we've seen is he's become a bit more in control of his awkwardness, if that isn't contradictory. It's all down to confidence. They're clearly working on the training field. And this is revolutionary because, of course, our previous manager told us that you can't coach goal scoring or attacking or any of these things. You just buy strikers. That's what you do. And, Everton's had problems scoring goals for years and years before he arrived. Sorry, we need to forget about Daesh. We need to let him go. But he's transformed. And whilst other aspects of the team have worked, bringing in Jake O'Brien and a bit more energy and dynamism in midfield and confidence across the whole group, what he's done with Betto is the single biggest transformation imaginable, and it's credit to both the player and the manager, and I think it's vital, and it shows what a difference it can make, because you take Chris Wood out of Forest, they certainly wouldn't be third, and if you took Mateta out of Palace, I think they'd be in the bottom 3 or 4. So that goal scoring, that reliable outlet, and playing to the strengths of that outlet, they're different. In the case of Mateta and Wood, they're both very good in the air, aren't they? And, they're going to get crosses and headed opportunities. But Betto, you put the ball in front of him, one-on-one with the keeper, there's only one outcome. And it's absolutely fabulous.
And the best thing is, it's now got us looking up the table. I don't know about you, but I'm really not focusing on the teams below us now. I think that's gone. I'm starting to look at this European push. We're 8 points behind Aston Villa. Now, 8 points. If you'd have said that at the turn of the year, that we'd be in the middle of February and 8 points behind Aston Villa, we'd be like, nah, not a chance. We're 9 points behind Fulham. We're in that 8th place, which I think gets the confidence. It definitely is time to start looking up, isn't it? I think we said at the start of the month, I think we gave our points predictions again, didn't we? I think I said 11, and I felt like that was really optimistic, but we're on course for that. I think we've got 7 now with a couple of games left. So we're well on course for that. Dave, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but are you looking like...
I do. I want to get ahead of ourselves. We haven't been ahead of ourselves for 10 years. I want to get as far ahead of ourselves as we can.
How much you've contradicted yourself there in the last 30 seconds, Les. We're looking at Europe, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself.
I know, but my mind's absolutely scrambled by the whole thing, because it's like, there is a lot of confidence around the club, and, you look at us three being all happy and confident about Everton's prospects. Didn't think that'd happen, I'm not going to lie. But, Dave, we can look up now, can't we? And you said earlier about Thelwell coming out and saying, the club can spend some money in the summer. It's really important that we finish high up the division as possible. Not, for obvious reasons that we avoid relegation. Even if we can't qualify for Europe, I think what's every place worth? Is it £3 million or something?
Just over 3, yeah.
So the more you climb up that table, it's really, really important for Everton and the finances. And I think we've got to start looking up and looking ahead now, haven't we?
Yeah, I think you're right with that there. As much as we laugh and joke there, but things happen with runs like this at the end of the season. You always get that side that drops like a rock, and you always get that side that generally starts flying. We might well be that side that is doing that sort of thing. We've got a manager there that certainly won't take his foot off the gas. We know that. And whilst that is happening, then I see us being an effective side that can climb higher and higher in the league. And I feel the sides in front of us as well. Some of them are really struggling. Villa start to look like they've started to run out of petrol themselves as well. You think Brentford's hit and miss. I know we've got to go there as well. Dare to say, you're starting to look at 6 pointers in a different mindset than you are 6 pointers when you're playing against sides that are in the bottom 5 or 6, and that these things I'm starting to take from it. It's hard to get used to, Look, let's hope not in a week's time when we're back again thinking, oh wow, why were we thinking that this was going to be any more positive when United come to us and do us 5 or 6-0, and pretty confident that won't happen as well. And then you look at the games we have remaining too. We've got to go to Anfield, and the thing I felt before that win against Palace, and I was adamant that we weren't safe. I felt we need to get to 36, 37. There's no 3 sides below us that'll get to near that. I don't think. I think Ipswich are last season's Luton. I think every time I watch them, I think that there's a little bit more effective than Luton. We're not conceding goal after goal, but it feels that's that plucky side of stuff. They've got a manager that's really talented, by the way. I think he'll go on to bigger and better things at one point. You look below them, no, Leicester, just with Van Nistelrooy, just doesn't look like it was the right decision to go and get him. I really like him actually as well. I wish he was, I hope he goes on to do better things, sort of, that doesn't concern Everton. And then Southampton are gone. So that side of it has taken care of itself down there. And yeah, I think, if you can get to, if Everton was to finish in the top half of the table, I think that is akin to probably the best seasons Moyes has had for us. When you take the context of it, and look, we'll have people listening to this who aren't Blues, and they'll think, what on earth is he talking about there? But it doesn't take much to look a little bit deeper and the underlying things that we've had, the problems that we've had there. It's only Blues that will be able to tell others of what it's been like and how difficult it's been for our club and to be an Evertonian. And when you're getting now to saying, Everton will be, it's miraculous that Everton are a mid-table side in the Premier League, given what we've had in the last 3.5-4 years, is astonishing. But yeah, I don't think we're not far away from that, are we? The league doesn't lie, as they always say. We've got games there coming up at Goodison, which I don't see Everton playing poorly, or Everton not playing well against who we've got. You think you got Ipswich, you think you got Southampton as well. They might well already be gone by the time we play them. Southampton certainly will on the last day, which is going to be, we're going to be all over the place, aren't we, emotionally? And Everton have to go and win that game, by the way, against Southampton. But that's for us to talk about in a couple of months' time. I think you're right. I think that looking up rather than down is certainly the mentality we all need to have as fans. And the sides in and around us, there's no real momentum. You look at, I was interested. I was looking at, wow, have you seen the race for fourth? I think there's something like down to 10th. There's only 7 points between 4th and 10th or something like that. You'll correct me if I'm wrong there, Les. You think you go down to Brighton and they'll all be, when they're not winning games, they must look at each other and think, we've missed a massive opportunity here. If only Everton had 8 or 9 more points, it'd be like, we're seriously in the race here to at least get a European position. Look, that might well go on and happen. But there are others sort of who aren't consistent above us. Are we the top form side, are we, in the division?
Arsenal, I think. Arsenal are.
Is it just Arsenal ahead of us?
Yeah, we're joint second.
And you couple that up with defensively, and I'm looking at this thinking, do you know what? If you get it's not rocket science. If you get our striker scoring goals and Everton aren't conceding, then there's only one outcome there.
Last 5, Liverpool, Arsenal, and Everton have won 4, drawn 1, all 3.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah,
and you can't imagine that happening, Les. And what used to be is something that was a bugbear of mine for many years, under Moyes included, was away games. How Everton played and approached away games. You think of that win at Brighton, you think of that win at Crystal Palace, completely different to the Moyes and everybody else. Everton have gone. Their cars is going early there as well. And Everton have become more effective going away from home. And it's funny because under Dyche, I maintain saying throughout most of his tenure that I prefer Everton to play away from home there, because you sort of feel more used to the fact that the opposition has got much more possession than you have. There's a versatility to what we have now that we feel like we can handle everything that's thrown at us in the opposition that we have. And when you're approaching towards the end of a season, it's always like, but what's the old, thing that people would say is, get your sun cream on and go to the beach and all that sort of thing. I don't think you're going to see that. You might well go round in a few circles there. You might well be right that Everton can sort of think, you know what, you go on a big run of games here. There's half a chance you're looking at something that has been, looks like it's in a different planet. We're talking about.
Well, I think we're going to get 50 points, right? I'm happy to come out of the closet. We've got 30 points now. We've got 8. We got 13 games to go. I'm going to go with 7 or 8 wins and a couple of draws and a couple of defeats. I
mean, when you say it like that, Rodger, it's not beyond the realms, because if you think
you look at the home games we've got,
you win half the games.
Wolves away, rather, yeah. Ipswich,
it feels
at home.
You win the half game. How many have you got left at Goodison?
13.
7.
6 or 7. 7. Yeah.
6 or 7. Who's the hardest side we've got? Arsenal. Arsenal have got to come to Goodison, haven't they?
City as well.
Yes.
And City.
Well, they're completely different this season, but I'd certainly back us to get 2 or 3 wins away from home. So what you're saying there, Rodger, I think, that's a reasonable target, shall we say, at least.
Well, tell me what you think. Tell me what you think the odds are, right? Because I like a bet, as people know, right? Everton to be in the top half. Tell me what odds they are.
I'd go.
Top
I'd
half.
go 5 to 6, maybe even money.
I don't know. I'm crap at betting, so I have no idea.
Right. Well, I can get 22 to 1.
What?
Fucking lunacy.
To finish in the
22
top half.
to 1. At Premier League top half finish, Everton 22 to 1.
What?
I shall be having a bet on that after this podcast.
I
Manchester
think,
United to finish in the top half
Mate.
are 15 to 8. That's less than 2 to 1. Crystal
We'll
Palace
go in,
are
I tell you
4
what,
to 1.
Roger, we'll be going to your executive box at Bramley Moor with that. That is a start. How many points are we from top half?
7. That's with Sky Bet as we speak. Sky Bet 22 to 1 Everton to finish in the top half. West Ham at 12
Brighton,
to 1 to
is it?
finish in the top half.
West Ham,
Brighton
what? Sorry,
are
what did you say, West Ham?
West Ham at 12 to 1. It's absolute madness.
That's 2 teams
It's
below us.
absolute
I
madness.
think these next 2 games are crucial for me because it feels like we're at that sort of crossroads now whereby we've got a winnable game against Man United at home.
Correct.
Probably a winnable game
Brentford
against
away.
Brentford as well because Spurs went there and won, and Spurs are wretched. So,
Yes.
there's no reason why we can't. Obviously, we could be getting ahead of ourselves because we've got this momentum. But I think this is a big crossroads. We're at that point where I think we said it a few weeks ago with the Spurs game. We had the chance to pull away and we took it. We had the chance to sort of get closer to Spurs or whatever it was, and we took it. Whereas in the past, that's where we've slipped up. When we've got the chance to pull away, we could get a bit of breathing space between teams. We've not done it. We have done it in the past few weeks, and this feels like it's one of those again. We beat United on Saturday. We go 4 points clear of them. We can potentially go to within a point of Brentford then, who we then play on the Wednesday. They've got Leicester on the Friday night, so there's a good chance they keep well ahead of us there. But we are closing the gap on these teams now, and it feels like this is the big opportunity against United, isn't it?
Absolutely, it is. I mean, I think that, at the end of the day, you've got to think that teams, as Dave said, teams with momentum, it makes all the difference in that league finishing. Some people come with a wet sail. The only regret, and obviously we've been a thoroughly positive podcast, which is very much goes against the grain historically. The only regret is that we're out of the FA Cup, because in the FA Cup, wow, just imagine us still in the FA Cup.
Who did Bournemouth get?
Don't know. I'll find out. You keep talking. Bournemouth got in the FA Cup. Wolves at home. I mean,
straightforward tie.
It's quite funny that, isn't it? But I'm just looking at this league table as you were talking there, and there's get to that stage of the season where it's quite astonishing when you look at the facts and figures. I mean, you look at Man United lost 12 of the 25 games.
8 under Amorim. 8 under Amorim.
Unimaginable that they'd be below Everton when, again, you go back to pre-Christmas, you're looking at United thinking, as you know what, a bog standard season for them is finishing in the Europa League. You wouldn't even they'd want to throw away. They'd sort of think it is rubbish in the bin if they got thrown into the Europa Conference, which obviously we'd take with both hands if we were able to go and get in a position like that. But you think I mentioned these sides that are so up and down. I mean, I think Fulham have been really good lately. When you think about Marco Silva's done a really good job there. Newcastle here and there as well. Aston Villa. Each of those sides I'm mentioning there are. You talk about throwing a few quid on something, Roger. They're hard to throw in your accumulator because there's no assumption there. Look at Villa against Ipswich. 10 minutes. Shall we say?
Look at Brighton getting battered 7-0 by Forest.
Yeah, and then going and beating Chelsea
3-0.
Back to back wins against. Yeah, it's not, and the bookies must be lapping it up this season. And for us again, I'm looking at it. Everton have only won 7 in 25, and what the 4 of those. In 6 games under Moyes.
Yeah, 4 of them have been like this month. Something.
Yeah, which I mean, it does show you. I think as much as it does looking up as it does looking down there, you can get things sorted quite quickly here. You can get into that. I mentioned that word juggernaut. You can get into that where you're constantly revving things up and getting faster and faster and faster as you get to that. And if Everton finish above Man United, that is astonishing. That is, given what they've spent, it's absolutely fucking hilarious. If Everton finish above Man United, Man United in 15th is actually hilarious as well. Given what's gone over there, and like I said, the golden boy of management comes in, and things start fucking up even worse. It looks like too. It's a crazy season when you look at it. Again, that to get into 4th place, you've got Bournemouth battling for that. Bournemouth revelation. They're probably one of the best sides I've enjoyed watching this season. They've been fantastic.
Definitely the manager of the season. He's definitely the manager of the season, without.
And
I think Semenyo is probably one of the finds of the season.
Yeah,
where they've got these players from, it's sensational.
And the thing that gets me is, I watch quite intently there how these managers come out and portray themselves both before and after games, and obviously what I do for a living. You have to listen to these press conferences before every game. The way in which he talks and conducts everything that's going on. Obviously, the language barrier because he's not the best in speaking English yet. But the way in which he's talking about settling things down, nobody's getting too far ahead of themselves. He's getting to the point where he sees anybody from the media who comes to interview him, if they mention European football, it's like he's offended by it. Genuinely, though, it's not like a Moyes interview of the past where people in the media go up to him and say, well, you're looking at Europe, and he'd come back and say, well, there's a long way to go and all that sort of thing. With Iraola, he seems to get things in the Premier League, and again, something which is a seismic change there. Bournemouth, who he's just trying to keep up in the Premier League. You look how much they've changed, the players in which you've got. There's a lad there that I wish we'd won and gone. I was incredibly sick at the time, wasn't he, in Davy Brooks there. He's a squad player, and he looked like he was one of the. Obviously he's had those issues health wise, but they've got a squad of players that have come from, it's been obscure the way in which these players have come up to the Premier League side and in Bournemouth as well. And if Everton want that sort of blueprint and what they can go and do, you've got a manager who's done it before as well. It shows you what you can quite quickly get into that position where you're looking at Bournemouth are going to qualify for Europe. Let's be fair. You'd be astonished if they didn't, given that they're on 43 now, and you need to be what? Well, having said that, what are we on? Villa. So let's say Brighton 37. They're only 6 points behind. They're 7 points behind Manchester City. I mean, this season has been absolutely crazy.
Yeah. Bournemouth are 1 point behind Man City.
Nuts. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, nuts. There's no guarantee that Man City qualify for the Champions League.
Exactly. I mean, they had a really good series of results at the weekend for City. But these players, this Semenyo geezer, sorry to go on about him, they got him for less than 10 million quid from Bristol City, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's extraordinary. Cliver for 10 million quid from Roma. Hyson, he's actually Spanish, that centre-back, they got him for about 12 million quid from Juventus. Like a kid from Juventus came to Bournemouth. It's phenomenal. Kirkes, they got him from Alkmaar for about 15 million quid. These are not big signings. And people have laughed when I've said, we can go out and get quality players for 10 to 15 million. You bloody can. I've just given you 4 of them there.
Well,
it's incredible.
Big Kev will be down there on the south coast like Oliver Twist, won't he? Can I have some more? Can you let me know? Can you let me know who we can go and get here? Who are your scouts? What are they all about?
Well, hopefully now Moyes is back. That's the sort of market that we're going to be operating in. Sort of looking at these championship players, looking at players from abroad. If you're getting in for 15, 20 million before they become 50 million pound players.
What's Alcaraz? We have to pay that for him, don't we? There's one there straight in the bag. Then if Everton want to go and get him. Promising start. Yeah. I actually think we're going to finish now, but just going back on him, I thought he looked incredibly lightweight initially against Palace, and it's almost like he transformed throughout the game, and he loved the scrap. You see him; he's gone in with that. If you look at that almost infamous interview I did with Tim Vickery, he was talking about him and the way in which he is sort of like not just. I don't want to go too far in stereotype, sort of South American. Mentality when it comes to it, but he was absolutely loving a scrap. He was straight over there with the Decore and Curtis Jones.
Absolutely,
He absolutely loves it. And you look at there in that game, he's really, again, Everton have got pace. How often have you been able to say Everton have got pace? It had been a common trait that we haven't had for so long, and Everton are quick. Everton can counter-attack and Everton can score goals on the floor. It's a different Everton, isn't it? Maybe that's why we had the song all this time.
Dare I say to finish, Everton are back. There we go. Right, we can all be positive anyway. That was a very, very positive podcast, which no one thought they'd get out of us. But there you go. Just goes to show.
Might well be the only one this season.
Hey, just enjoy it while you can. As I said, we are going to test event tonight, so we'll have loads of stuff up on that. Let you know exactly what it's like. I cannot wait, and it's nice to be able to look forward to that as well. without any sort of trepidation. It's all good stuff.
It is. Do
So,
you know what? I'd swap. I'm going. I've got mine in the ballot for the second one, which I keep on trying to tell people. You know, oh, mine's better. I've got another 15k on top of these, but I'd give it and pay a lot of money to go to tonight's one, because I think that's going to be that's going to be something that you never dreamed of when you go into that context of how Everton have ended up with a new stadium. You know, I'm not going to say the term that we've said so long. Oh, well, all right, I will do. You know, when you think of a new dawn's coming, but that might be going a little bit too far, mightn't it? Do you know what I mean?
It's just another reason to be cheerful. So yeah,
let's go with the Friends theme, the one where we all got carried away. This is the episode, the one where we all got carried away.
Yeah, we'll all be on our arse again when we get beat by United at the weekend. Anyway, let's not finish on that, because we're going to leather them. So there we go. That has been Happy Monday once again from me, Rog, and Dave. We've got all the usual stuff coming up this week, so keep tuned in. And yeah, up the toffees.
Oh, we had the housekeeping as well, didn't we, Les?
We've done all the housekeeping.
Have you done it with Matt saying that it's post matches on after that and bylines tomorrow later on in the afternoon?
Just to recap, we've got sort of an instant match reaction tonight at the new ground, and then byline's going to be out on Tuesday. So Tuesday evening, sorry. So so there we go. So that's that. Thanks to Rog, thanks to Dave, thanks to everyone for listening. We'll catch you next time on Blue Monday.